Okay, so you've worked out what a simile is, and in this video I'm going to take you from a rubbish simile, hopefully, to an awesome one. So let's look at this first one here. The night was dark as coal. One reason that this simile is quite rubbish is because we're saying the night is dark, and actually everybody already knows that, don't they? This is nothing new, so your simile isn't really doing much of a descriptive job. The second reason that it's a rubbish simile is if I asked everyone in your class, the night was as dark as, well, most people would guess coal was coming, and so it's not very original. And then the third reason was pointed out to me by one of my amazing Year 7 students, who said that, well, coal isn't always black. In fact, it changes its state when you heat it, and so it's not that useful as a simile either. So let's look at how that can become a better simile. The darkness of the night was still as a lake, and here the writer has done something quite interesting. Instead of describing the darkness, they've assumed the reader knows what darkness is, and they've tried to describe a quality of the darkness, which is its stillness. And this can become quite threatening, and here it is, because a lake, especially a dark one, is potentially deep, potentially cold and dangerous. So this is a much better simile because it suggests that the night is potentially dangerous and that its stillness, which appears safe, is actually perhaps an illusion. So that's packed with information, isn't it? And then finally, we go to an awesome version of this simile. The darkness of the night is still, but look what it's doing. It swallowed me up like a lake, so that I felt cold and alone. And this is packed with much more information. Here the lake has become much more threatening. It's already swallowing, which means, of course, that the night is swallowing the person up. It's much more dangerous. And we find what that's doing to the person's emotions. I felt cold and alone. Hopefully, you can see that that's a much more powerful information-packed simile. And let's just take a final check on what happens with the punctuation. So this is the main clause, the bit that makes sense on its own. The darkness of the night was still. When we add to it, and swallowed me up like a lake, you might have been taught that you don't need a comma beforehand, but what's happened here is that this is being dropped into the sentence. So another way of looking at that is saying that my sentence makes sense like this. If I just highlight that bit and that bit, so that I felt cold and alone, all the bit in yellow makes sense as a sentence itself. The darkness of the night was still, so that I felt cold and alone. And this piece of information is added into the middle, which is why it's demarcated with commas either side. So that's another way of checking that you've got a really powerful simile. Have you had to add commas into it? If you have, then it's packed full of information and you know it's doing a great job for your reader. So, good luck with similes.